Welcome to a simple somatic yoga practice. I'm Megan. Please remember to subscribe and thank you for all your comments and thank you patrons. Today's practice is simple somatic yoga to release the shoulders. So we're going to do some of my very favorite things, and the reason why they're favorite is they're realistic. You can do them sitting in a chair. So you may want to sit in a chair, you want to be comfortable, have your lower body comfortable. You could do them standing. So you can do them at work, or if you've been driving a long time and you get out to get yourself some gas. These are things you can do then, except for the last one. But stick with me, we'll get started. So find your comfortable position where your back and spine is supported, whether that be seated or standing, and just take a moment to acknowledge your shoulder girdle. So the shoulder girdle, you can feel where your clavicles come together. You got that little notch in your throat and come across your clavicles, because we like to know where the bony landmarks are in the shoulder girdle, and then come all the way out to the edge of the shoulders. And then think about the back side, you might even touch them, where your shoulder blades are. So your shoulder blades, your scapula, that's the bony landmarks in the back side of your shoulders. So we want to recognize that when working with the shoulders, it's not starting at the edge of the shoulder to the arm, it's this whole area in and around the upper torso. So we'll start with that on both sides by taking the palms together and then squeeze your elbows as close as you can get them together. If you'd like to do this to your breath, take an inhalation, and as you inhale, let the arms float up, and as they float up, your elbows are going to naturally need to come apart. Let them come apart. And as they come apart, I'm doing this one in slow motion, you'll come into fingertips, so the palms will come apart, and then you're just fingertips. When your fingertips are still touching, draw your elbows as far back as you can, comfortably pushing the fingertips. So we're engaging the muscles by pushing fingertips, creating that resistance. And then as you start to breathe out, still drawing the elbows back, slowly pull them down to your sides. So we'll do that in circles. We breathe in, palms press together, the inner elbows press, and we start to come up. And all the way to the top where your elbows are out and extended, fingers pressing, and the exhalation is down and around. So sometimes we call this one aura sweep. So that's another nice part of this, is energetically you can think of clearing the space around you. Maybe that's something you need to do at work or after driving in the car. So continuing to feel this, sense those bony landmarks and the muscles around them. So in the front, where you feel your collarbones, can you sense when they're stretching the pectoral muscles around the collarbones? And then also in the back, as your arms are forward, you might sense your muscles around the shoulder blades stretching. Just making some nice slow circles. Sometimes I do this in a mirror too. If you're doing it in a mirror, you might notice if you have any asymmetry, so one shoulder might go to a different position than the other or come around easier. Just doing a few more. Working both hands together. Super simple for the shoulders. Last one. Inhale up. Press those fingers, create resistance, and exhale. Imagine dragging your hands out and your elbows away from one another and down and around. All right, you can give the shoulders a little roll. The next one we do, again, both hands together, is we're going to clasp the fingers into a nice basket. And not just clasp them, but pull them a little bit. And notice if it's like if your fingers are sewn together and you go to pull, sense how that creates some muscular engagement in the arms. Like you're trying to pull your fingers apart, but you're squeezing them. So we want to do a little bit of that to create that engagement. Then you're going to begin to take the arms up. Now this one I'll caution you, don't let your head come forward. Keep the base of the skull right over your sacrum. But you're going to bring your hands up and then get as high as you can over the top of your head. That little bit of pulling. So you're feeling the muscles in your arms. Draw your elbows back. And then start by making really small circles over the top of the head. So this one is the halo. Yes, you have a halo. You are an angel. And going a little bit wider as it suits you. You can take the elbows further out to the sides. You can go further behind your head. Just watch that you're not popping that chin and neck forward. Keep your neck in a neutral position. Gaze is straight ahead. Making these nice big circles. Good opportunity to air out your armpits here. But these are really nice prehab movements or anything else you do. Like I do this one a lot before I practice down dog or any other yoga postures that I'm going to be weight bearing in my arms. Just explore. I switch directions here. You can do that too. So a little bit of tugging and resistance by pulling your fingers apart. You get a nice stretch in the wrist that way too. Bonus. One more time around. And relax that down. Okay, while we're seated, the next we're going to do, we're going to address each shoulder independently because oftentimes one might be sticky and the other's not. So I'll start with my happy left shoulder here, and this one is called the shoulder clock face. So if you imagine a 12, a 3, a 6, and a 9 on the clock, we're going to move the shoulder through those positions. So the first one is the 12 o'clock, and you're going to lift the shoulder up towards your ear. So what's key here is I'm not lifting from my arm and my elbow. I'm letting the arm and the elbow stay heavy. I'm lifting from the shoulder girdle. So squeezing it up as high as I can. Imagine somebody coming up under your armpit and lifting your armpit and then releasing. That's the 12 o'clock. The 3 o'clock is if you think of your shoulder blade, you're going to slide your shoulder blade towards your spine. Or you can think from the front of stretching the space around the collarbone. So that's straight back. That's your 3 o'clock. I stretch for those pectoral muscles, and then we release. Next one is a downward. So the downward, I often think of my armpit like I'm trying to touch my armpit to my waist. Not going to happen, but give it a go. And you'll feel a stretch through the side of the neck and the top of the shoulder. But once again, I'm not drawing my elbow down or my hand. I'm thinking of using the shoulder joint itself. Those bony landmarks. Think of pushing the collarbone and the shoulder blade down, and then release. That was your 6, and your 9 is forward. So the forward motion, the head of the arm bone here, is going to try to kiss the collarbone. Think of it bringing it forward, or from the back side, imagine your shoulder blade sliding away from the center of the spine. So let's go around one more time in each of those positions. If you're doing it to your breath, you can inhale, that's the effort. Lift up to your 12 o'clock, as high as you can go, further than you'd normally go. Exhale, release. Next one is inhale back to your 3 o'clock, squeeze that shoulder blade, stretch the collarbone, exhale, release. And next is down, your 6 o'clock, press that armpit down, stretch the top of the shoulder and the side of the neck, exhale, release. And forward, bring the front of the shoulder towards the collarbone, stretch your shoulder blade, release. So now that we found all 4 positions, we can go around in a circle and go nice and slow. Check again, you're not using your arm, so it's really easy to do this, right? Want to isolate the movement in the shoulder girdle and go up and back and down and forward. So here's the interesting thing. You might find your head moving because we try to move our shoulder from our head as well as from our arm. So you can keep your head, your neck relaxed and at center, your gaze at center. Go really slow. Notice the places where it feels sticky, or if it feels like it's skipping out, you might even close your eyes. Go even slower through those. So those sticky spots are where the muscles might not be doing exactly what they need to. We sometimes call it sensory motor amnesia. We'll go really slow. And then the other thing is you can switch the direction. So try going up and forward and down and back. And now it's really much more of a circular motion than a jerky from point A to point B, as much as you can make it that. Just feel that lovely left shoulder going all the way around. Head and neck relaxed. Look and see, is there tension building anywhere else in your body? Low back, all that's relaxed. This is just this isolated movement in your left shoulder. You can switch directions one more time. Make it fun. And then relax. So pause for a moment. Just feel. This is the magic moment. You might even put your palms up. Feel your 2 shoulders. And can you sense a difference in the left and the right? It might be a weight difference, just a sensibility of being present in one shoulder more than the other. Does one feel bigger or smaller? So if you're left-handed, left shoulder is probably your go-to. Use it more often. Right-handed, we'll go into the right. So let's start with the 12 o'clock. Sense the top of your shoulder and pick up the top of the shoulder so you'll feel a stretch in the underarm area and a tightening in the top of the shoulder, and then release that. Next one is back to the 3 o'clock. So drawing that shoulder blade towards the spine, or think of stretching the front around the collarbones. And this is an area we tend to be tight. If we've been sitting at a desk, we're rounded a lot here, right? So I'm gonna stretch those collarbones, drop back, and release. Next one is downward. So you can think of somebody gently pressing on the top of your shoulder or drawing your armpit towards your waist. Again, I'm trying, this one is a little bit trickier for me. My elbow wants to take over, so I have to relax my elbow and think move from the shoulder girdle. And release. Next one is head of the arm bone forward like it wants to kiss the collarbone. And you'll also see with this one, a lot of times your whole torso turns, right? Can you keep your torso still and just initiate the movement from the shoulder? So I could tell my body wanted to turn to make that movement. Just the shoulder. And then we'll go around again. We'll go around 2 more times. Up as you breathe in, and release as you breathe out. Back as you breathe in, that's the effort. Just let it slide back to its natural space of grace as you breathe out. And then downward, and release, and forward to your 9 o'clock. And release. Maybe find those 4 points one more time, individually. You can even hold it for a few breaths, especially if you find a space that is stickier. Acknowledge, what do your muscles do? Where are they feeling tight and where are they stretching? And then let it all go. And notice if one shoulder was easier to move than the other. That's why I encourage you to do shoulder exercises independently of one another. And then when we know we have those 4 spots, we start to smooth that out and go all the way around. If you find you keep using your arm, you might lay your opposite arm or hand on that arm. Think of moving from the shoulder. So it's all about the intention and our vision, rolling that shoulder. If you can't find it too, another thing I'll do sometimes is take the outer shoulder to a wall, or you can even image yourself taking that outer shoulder to a wall, and it's like you're gently scrubbing or cleaning the wall with your shoulder. Going around and round. The rest of the torso stays still. You can play with going the opposite direction. Notice any places that are sticky, go even slower. So the tendency is to skip those areas where we might have some stickiness. You want to just go slower, even. And my grumpy shoulder is very grateful for this movement, though it grumps a little bit at me. And then we notice, what do we say to ourselves? I say things like, well, I had a lot of fun creating this grumpy shoulder. There's many reasons why it's grumpy, and they're all fantastic ones, fortunately for me. Things like ski crashes. I'm grateful. Not so much for the discomfort, but for the memories. And our body holds memories, particularly our shoulders. Relax. Our shoulders are protectors. They protect our heart, right? And we always notice that heroes have big, strong shoulders, our superheroes. But we also need to be able to let things slide off our back, right? So slide off the shoulders. Don't carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. So those are the seated movements we're going to do, and those are very accessible. But now we'll do one more that is my other favorite, because it's going to work with what's called internal and external rotation of the arm. So that's going to hit your shoulders in a little bit different way, and we'll move more from the arms to move the shoulders. So we're going to come down onto our backs, although let me just show you, because if all you have is seated, this can be done seated, but it's a lot more sensation. So if we're up here, we would take our elbows out like goalposts and just let both hands fall forward. So you're going to keep your wrist in line with your elbow, and I've got a nice 90-degree angle, and let them fall forward. So notice that is your internal rotation, and just keep your hands floppy and your wrist relaxed, and then come back up. And then if you let your hands fall back, they probably won't go very far. But that's your external rotation of the arm bones. And just sense where you feel that in your chest, in your upper back. You can do it seated, but I do find for a release, and that's what this video is about, it's generally more comfortable to do it lying down. So I'm going to take it there. Feel free to stay seated if you want. So sometimes we call this one Cactus Arms. Come down to the ground. You can bend your knees so that your back is comfortable. And then take your elbows out to the sides. Once again, the elbows should be about in line with the shoulders. Let your wrists be floppy. And acknowledge the floor underneath you. Take advantage of the support underneath your spine now. And the other reason I like to do it on the floor is if you let both hands fall forward in the internal rotation, this is a little bit of an assessment for you. So you can look at your left hand and your right hand and see, is one closer to the floor than the other? Because that'll tell you a little bit about if one shoulder is tighter. And the other thing is when we're done with this, if the hands are closer to the floor, then you know this movement is working for you, it's helping you. And we can do the same thing with the external rotation. So just let the hands fall back behind you. And in doing so, I have to watch out for the dog. In doing so, notice, do both touch the ground or does one feel tighter or looser? Do your little assessment there. And then we'll come back up and we'll do this in motion. So we do it in motion, we're going to alternate arms. So we can let them fall on the exhalation. Think of gravity just having its way with your arm bones. And you're going to bring the left arm down. Notice how your left shoulder lifts off the ground and the right arm overhead. And then as you inhale, let them meet back at center. Exhale, switch. Right arm down, right shoulder blade might lift, left arm overhead. And we're just switching. One arm's going down by the hip and the other one going overhead. During each your breath, we come back to the center on the inhale and let them fall on the exhale. So what I'm going to add on now is the head, because oftentimes when we have discomfort or we're trying to release the shoulders, the neck is an important part of that. So start to turn your head towards the upper arm, and then as you exhale and arms come back to center or wrists over your elbows, your nose comes to the center of the chest. So it's like you're just trying to turn and roll your head to look at that top arm. Pausing at the center in between. Inhaling and feel the weight of your skull. We're not lifting up the head, the skull is completely supported by the ground. You can feel you rolling through the middle towards one ear and then the other. So as little effort as possible. We're not pushing the arms. You may want to check that the elbows aren't sliding down next to your sides. Sometimes that happens, so you can take them up to the height of your shoulders again. And take a few more where you're just letting your head roll like you're trying to look at that upper arm. Using the support of the floor for the base of the head. And then we're just going to switch that out very simply. You're going to look, turn back to the center, look at the bottom hand. And often one way is easier than the other, looking at the top hand or the bottom. And that's how we break down those, I say, stuck muscle patterns. Is by doing things differently. When we do something differently, our brain listens, it relearns, it's always learning. We now know about this lovely gray matter and that no matter what age we are, our brain has the capacity to learn. So you're just turning towards the bottom arm, let your head roll, or watch, do you tend to tighten your jaw or try to lift your head off the ground? That may be one of the signs that you hold tension in your neck and your shoulders. So can you just let yourself receive the support of the ground underneath you? Taking a few more. And then we'll come back to the center. We'll do our assessment once again to see what happens. So just letting the arms fall forward. And you can see when I started, I was quite a few inches, fingertips from the ground. And now I'm almost touching the ground. I'm not going to force it, but you can see I'm a lot closer to the ground. So nice release there for me. Yay. Let me know what you get. And then lift back up and let them fall back. And if your hands are already touching the ground, as mine were, the backs of the hands, you might just note if it feels more relaxing to do this. And that would be a sign that this lovely cactus arm movement, as simple as it is, just helped you to release your shoulders. So that's it for these simple somatic movements for today. Watch, I'll be doing more of these videos that I'm just trying to give you some very practical tools that you can use anywhere, anytime to love up your body, to keep yourself comfortable in your earth suit. Thanks again for joining me. Peace, joy, love, and light.